Hello, and welcome to Z's Masterclass series where we make leaping from local to global look easy. Today, we will explore the ins and outs of entity and product compliance, along with product compliance for sale and what it takes to get there. This can be daunting and somewhat confusing as a task to many, but with the right partner, this process can be a lot easier than you think. Over the past few years, we have noticed that compliance is hardly mentioned when thinking about taking your local business global. However, it's touched on a simple process. Adherence to compliance policies and regulations can be the difference between a successful shipment or a stuck and returned one. Amazon can offer guidance through frequently asked questions or articles on Seller Central, but starting in a new marketplace, you have to think about these three focus points. Firstly, will my entity be compliant? Will my product be compliant? And lastly, will my product be compliant for sale in that new market? What is entity compliance? Entity compliance trumps what we call product compliance. Just because you are compliant in one market doesn't necessarily mean that your product will be compliant in the new one. As Amazon marketplaces are in different geographical areas and they are influenced by different policies, politics, and regulations, you need to make sure that your entity and your product is compliant in that market. When considering global expansion, we really think about the associated compliance risk. Existing sellers feel confident in their local markets. However, when expanding into a new market, they need to adopt this sense of flexibility in their business model to avoid any risk of a stuck shipment or a returned one. Inventory confiscations are something you need to think of. These add stress to already stretched budgets and can lead to lengthy delays. Amazon Seller Central is a helpful tool in determining the possible requirements of a new marketplace. However, Amazon will not assume any responsibility for a non-compliant entity or serve as an active tool in warning a seller against this risk. What is product compliance? Product compliance refers to the documentation or safety procedures that a product must comply with to be successful for that specific import. An example of this document is when we think of importers into the EU, they must usually self-declare with a declaration of conformity. Like all policies and regulations, product compliance is constantly under review and can change at any given moment. There can also be a disconnect between how the law is interpreted and how the governing authorities apply it. It's important to note that your products may have been compliant and successfully imported once, but this does not guarantee that your goods will clear customs again. Countries have the prerogative to change these import compliance rules and regulations as they see fit. This can be really hard to predict and can cause unnecessary costs and delays on your shipments. What is national product safety compliance? Countries may set laws against the sales of specific products. While customs authorities enforce product compliance, national product safety is enforced by the national authority. These are usually in the form of consumer protection laws and will differ according to what country you plan on shipping to. You cannot legally sell your product in the country without complying with these legislations. For example, some products must comply with one or more safety standards. This may set specific design requirements for electronic products or physical proportions for toys. Some standards are developed for specific product or categories. In other cases, directives, such as the Low Voltage Directive, refer to the entire list of standards. IEC standards, ISO standards, ASTM, and EN standards. Not all products are covered by product-specific safety standards, but what is important to understand is that you, as an importer, are responsible for ensuring that all products you place on the market are safe and legal to sell. Let's chat about third-party suppliers. Compliance is a topic that attracts negative feelings, but should not be viewed as an impossible task. When partnering with trusted international service providers, one can mitigate the risk of being caught off guard with unforeseen costs and missteps. There are third-party service providers who can help you navigate these murky waters. Partnering with trusted professionals allow you to capitalize on your first shipments and curb the risk of unforeseen costs, such as stuck shipments or the return of goods to sender. While these may seem like expensive and unnecessary costs, in the beginning, having a professional on board will help save costs. When deciding on who you want to partner with as a third-party supplier, in my opinion, the best partner is the party who carries the most risk. And with saying that, who allows you the most freedom. For instance, when expanding into a marketplace where you don't have a physical presence, an importer of record takes on the legal risk and responsibility of that shipment, making this an excellent partner. They also often offer other shipment-related services, such as compliance help and even freight. Another good port of call is a customs broker. A customs broker's job is to know precisely what is needed in terms of information and documents and professionally prepare the proper documents to ensure smooth customs clearance. It is important to research whether there are any customs restrictions related to your product in the destination country that may affect your clearance. For example, in July 2021, the EU made it compulsory for all imported products to have CE marked on, and that if they are CE marked, they need to have a person in the EU or the UK sign responsibility for the goods and act as a point of contact for product compliance. When you ship into a market where customs authorities impose the payment of what they call import VAT upon goods clearing customs, several documents and registrations are required to enable this successful import. Two of the main registrations you may be asked to provide is something called a VAT number and an EORI number. Okay, let's chat about this VAT number. Value added tax, or VAT, is tax a consumer would pay, which is collected on business transactions, imports, and goods that move between countries. Each country charges a different VAT percentage on imported goods and has different import requirements. For example, most countries will require a seller to register for a VAT number in their country and request specific documents at that point of import according to their laws and regulations. This is where your IRR comes into play, as they are responsible for paying these fees on your behalf. In some instances, your business may be entitled to reclaim this import VAT, and you can do this through the help of an IRR or a trusted third-party service provider. An EORI number. Okay, so EORI stands for an Economic Operators Registration and Identification Number. Businesses and people who want to trade within the EU must have an EORI number as a form of identification in this customs process. An EORI number is a 12-digit number. It begins with a 2-letter code used to identify the country in which this number was issued, followed by a number. Companies with a presence within Europe can request the assignment of the EORI number from customs authorities where they are actually based. But if your company is not in Europe, you can request an EORI number from the customs authority in the country you plan to ship to first. We hope this episode on entity compliance and cost will have you feeling more comfortable when you consider leaping from local to global.